I do like this chair's better. I think we just produced two beans when we went over to the other place, so we didn't want to come much order.
And then I just put sticks up and a couple rocks. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Tonight is our work session meeting. We have one item tonight on our Municipal Services Committee, and it's 7 o'clock, and I'm calling the meeting to order. Chairman Ed Long.
Mayor, thank you. I have had some requests to kind of change this up tonight a little bit, and I think it's a valid request. So at this point, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a motion that we adjourn the Municipal Services Committee and then reconvene back as a committee of the whole council, so that the whole council can have input, so that the whole council can ask questions, and then whenever we get ready to vote, the whole council can vote. I don't think it's anything but fair and right to do that. So I make a motion that we adjourn the Municipal Services Committee.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Oh, I don't know if I can second that.
Sure you can.
Second then.
I have a motion and a second. Tammy, would you call the roll, please? Sorry, Tammy.
That's okay. Long,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Hillenberg.
Yes.
Okay. Tammy, show that we're back on the record as a committee of the whole. Mayor, I think you want to make the first presentation.
Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, audiences, and Buckman Brewery, investors, and family. You know, we're here tonight to discuss a lease, but, you know, we got to think about how did we get here. 5 years ago, the Central Fire Station went empty. We had a fire station, a brand new one, built down 2nd Street that our fire department went into because it was a building that we needed a new one. And it has sat there 5 years, abandoned, costing the city taxpayers money, month after month. In June of 19, after we moved out, council, not some of the people on this council, but some that were here on this council, voted for the downtown area that and it includes the fire station to be a part of an arts and entertainment district because we want to revitalize our community. We want to revitalize our downtown. So the legislation right after that was to levy a tax on the sale of alcohol to any restaurant in the city that sold alcohol. And all this is within the law, all this is within the state statute, all this is legal for the city of Cabot. It passed unanimously. Since then, we've applied for a bunch of grants. We've got greenways under construction at the school area that'll lead you to downtown. We have trails that we're working on. We have sidewalks we put in. We did a bond issue. We asked the citizens of Cabot to move Cabot forward. And 80% of the citizens that voted said, we want Cabot to move forward. And with that money, we built a pavilion out there that you see right now that finally got done. We did a bond issue also for our city hall and redid all that. Spent $1 million on that. We spent $500,000 on a pavilion. Spent $300,000 on a pocket park behind City Hall. We have done the things. We invested the money to revitalize downtown Cabot. So here we come with the lease. We've been working with Buckman For over 2 years, we've had other restaurants come to us. Sorry, Buckman, you weren't the first that wanted to do this, and they just didn't want to do it. You came, you worked with us, you worked with Southern Bank, who's here tonight. SBA, you had to get SBA loan. They finally approved you after a year. And in that approval, we had to come up with some sort of lease for them to see that the Cabot would work with you. And in that lease, it said subject to council approval. It wasn't a lease that was already concrete. It was a lease that you would be subject to council approval. And we brought that, and it came out, and then there was talk around the whole city of Cabot that the city is on the hook for the loan. The city is using taxpayers' money. The city is spending $600,000 out of taxpayers' money. The administration are partners in it. The city property is used as collateral. Let me tell you that. This is all false. The city does not have one dime in this. The city coffers are not going to be expending any money. For me to expend money, it has to be approved by this council in a budget. And there's nothing in a budget for me to pay payments to a loan. And I've got Chris Roberts here tonight, if the chairman would allow him to have the floor, to kind of tell us, he's the president of Southern Bank, and he could tell you that the city has no guarantee on this loan, or not paying any loan, or not using any taxpayer money. It behooves me, it disappoints me in what has went on with social media. I'm disappointed. I have not received one phone call. I've not received one text. I've not received one instant message. I've not received one email that's asked me about this, because this is a no-brainer. Chris, would you like to come up and tell them about the loan documents if you come to this podium right here?
Good evening. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for letting me speak for a moment. My name is Chris Roberts. I'm the market president for Southern Bank here in Cabot for the Central Arkansas region. I've been made aware of a couple of issues noted to the SBA loan and the Southern Bank sponsorship of that loan to the Small Business Administration. I need to probably speak to predominantly the city is not being asked to guarantee, sign, or otherwise indemnify any part of the loan with the Small Business Administration. That loan is completely on the borrowers themselves who have chosen to undertake this endeavor. The city collateral is in no way encumbered on this loan. No real estate or other assets of the city are going to be utilized to collateralize it.
Do you know if any of the people of the city have signed as investors? Do you know, has the city guaranteed the SBA loan?
I've reviewed the loan presentation. The city is not listed anywhere as a guarantor, nor is any member of this council listed as any part of the partnership or operating agreements of the entity.
Okay. Ed, this is your show.
Yeah,
so.
anybody got any questions for Chris? Anything at all? Now's the time, guys. That's what we're here for. Chris, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Don't leave, though I'm going to ask you to stay.
I will be
pleased.
We got a long way to go yet tonight, okay? Thank you,
Ed,
Chris.
can I have the floor back?
Absolutely, sir.
And then to address the lease, Ben Hooper, our city attorney is here. Ben, could you come up and kind of outline what's going on here for those that I guess hadn't had a chance to read the full lease or comprehend some of the provisions in it?
Sure. So for starters, most of the lease probably looked familiar to you the first time you saw it. Most of it is standard leases that the city is involved with. The one paragraph that gets a lot of the focus is paragraph 2. So if you have questions, that's probably the one that we're looking at if you're following along on either in the audience or on the internet. The rest of the lease is standard to what we usually do on these things. The basis of the lease is it is envisioned, if approved as drafted, as a 20-year lease. The second 10 years of the lease will be rent at the amount of $8,200 a month, standard stuff. The first half is the first 10 years of the lease is the part that's a little bit different. The first 10 years of the lease is basically in exchange for the access to the premises, they are making at least, the leasee is making at least $600,000 of repairs to the building, repairs and improvements to the building. By law, in order for this to be legal, must become the property of the city. So that is how the lease is drafted. The city cannot give, private businesses can be as charitable as they want, the city cannot. The city cannot give something for nothing. The city must receive something in exchange for the use of this property. So that's what the city's receiving, is at least $600,000 worth of improvements to the property. The vague outline of the improvements is kind of listed in there. It's things like plumbing, electrical, HVAC, structural improvements that are needed. If there's parking improvements that are needed, things of that nature. What I would anticipate to make it easier on everybody eventually all leases end. So when leases, probably if this is approved and if we, as we go through that part, eventually the lease will have an addenda to it that lists out with as great a specificity as possible exactly what it is. So when we know exactly what plumbing changes are going to be made, we know exactly what structural changes are going to be made, all those will be listed in there. So in the addenda, so that whenever this thing terminates, there's no arguments about what stays and what goes. You don't want to be in arguments at that point. You want it all on a piece of paper laid out in front of you. So that is kind of what we're looking at. Frankly, it is probably better for the city than most of the leases that we do. Obviously, most of the leases that we do, you get your money paid out month per month. In this case, the city is getting the benefit all up front. So the city is getting the benefit, its share of the benefit in the first 10 years over 6 months or a year and a half or whatever it takes to improve it. And at that point, the city has its benefit. If something happens, things, obviously we don't want this to happen, but something happens, the business folds, 3 years in, the city already has its full $600,000 worth of benefit. So it is a very, but to be frank, with the lease he's sitting here, it is a very pro-city lease. So that's kind of what it looks like, kind of on the ground level. The very kind of snapshot thing is 20 years. The first 10 are accounted for in at least $600,000 in improvements. The second 10 are accounted for in a more traditional monthly payment. Happy to answer any questions about that or about the rest of the lease. The rest of the lease is fairly standard, but happy to answer any questions about any of it.
Anybody, any questions?
Ben,
Sir.
why did the lease change from a week ago?
Thank you. The lease used to reference, the practical effect is exactly the same. The lease used to reference the SBA loan. I did not hear this, but it was kind of told to me that there was confusion about the city being on the hook for the SBA loan. So I removed references to that so that there would be no confusion. Obviously, like I said in my email, you guys know this. You guys know that that's not how loans work or leases work. But we do, in addition to being a legal document, we want it to be as clear as possible for people reading along. So that's why.
Anybody else?
And I should also add that was the only thing changed. Those two paragraphs were combined, and those references removed. The rest of the paragraphs weren't changed.
Mr. Chairman, I have several questions.
Go ahead.
First of all, violation of lease obligations results in what? If the lease is violated?
So if there is an opportunity to remedy the violation, if the violation is not remedied to the city's satisfaction, the lease is terminated or can be terminated. I mean, that's all done at the mayor's discretion by state statute. He's the contracting agent. But this is not like an automatic termination lease. This is if there's an issue, notice is given of the issue and opportunity is given to remedy the issue.
Is there anything set aside for the burden of city services that it'll take from time to time to work with this business?
How so?
Security?
Security, things of that nature would have to be paid for by the leasing.
Okay. Is there any security deposit, or are we going to use building improvements?
So at this point, there is not a security deposit. That is more usually see that when you have a building that is in occupiable condition right away. This building is not in occupiable condition right away. It needs $750,000 worth of improvements. So no, we have not written one in. That can certainly be done, but like I said, that's usually more in, like, if we were renting out this space, we would have a security deposit in there to make sure we get it back how we rented it. In this building, we want it back substantially better than how we rented it.
Much better than how it looks right now. The last question I had was in reference to any fixtures that are affixed to our building remain a part of the building?
Yes, any fixtures that are there now remain ours. Any fixtures that get added remain ours. Like I said, that will be, once we have a more concrete idea of the exact specific improvements, I anticipate we would add an addenda to it. Just so whenever the lease ends, good terms or bad, nobody's arguing about everything. It's all spelled out in black and white.
SBA has no recourse to us at all on anything?
No, we are not a party to their loan. I myself have not even seen their loan paperwork because it's not. I don't care. They're not a party. They're not a part of my loan or to this lease. They're not a party to anything we're doing. I haven't spoken to them. No one from the city signed anything for them. We're not. No, that's a completely third party thing.
If the business is vacated 3 years down the road?
Yes, the business vacated 3 years down the line. It's between SBA and us parties. We have nothing. We are not on the hook for anything with the SBA loans. We keep however much of our improvements we're put in there, and we get our building back.
We do have a number of issues that are upgrading to current standards in our UDC that will have to be addressed as that building comes up to code. It'll have to be brought up to code, certainly for fire, for wiring, for plumbing,
Yes,
for
sir.
all the safety issues.
Yes, sir. Yes,
But
sir.
there are also things like landscaping, facades, advertising,
Yes.
parking. These are all things that are going to have to be addressed along with that.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
There's no available parking for this.
Yeah, no, those are all things that will have to be addressed. Yes, it has been, vacant for far longer than we need to get grandfathered in. So no, it will have to be brought up to code. Yes, sir.
So Ben, when would the parking be addressed after this lease is signed, or?
So parking would have to be addressed through, before they can open for business, before they get a CO, I would imagine through the remodel permit. I wish Laura was here. She can't be here because she's having her own meeting right now. But it would have to be addressed through that process. Yes, they would either have to have parking, have a agreement with the city to use available parking, or they would have to address parking. Yes.
Right. And the only parking available is going to be the city's parking.
As far as I know, yes. Or if they can reach some other agreement with somebody else, yes.
The lease, the way it's structured, is a 20-year lease.
Yes, sir.
And we understand that lease payments for the first 10 years, or 120 months,
Yes, sir.
is going to be building improvements, which takes our property and takes it from, I was in the building this week, and it's just a shell of a building. And it's been empty and molded for quite some time.
Yes, sir.
So there's going to be a certain amount of renovation will benefit from that.
Yes, sir.
But the second half of the 10 years,
Yes, sir.
that $8,200 a month will generate $984,000
Yes, sir.
that will go into the general fund.
Yes, sir. Yes, no, all that lease money goes in, lease funds go into the general fund to be spent as the council directs.
Do we have any exposure on safety issues with people going to and from?
Sure, that's a good question. So I mean, there is a normal risk that comes from owning a property. That comes from people coming up City Hall every day, or in the court every day, or any other buildings. The city does, as a municipality, does enjoy statutory immunity. So there is coverage there. There is indemnification language in the lease, which is standard, which means if something happens, they protect and cover us, not the other way around. That's standard lease language for property owners. So yes, certainly there is. I mean, all it takes to sue somebody is $160 and a piece of paper. So there's certainly that there. But we are as covered as we can be. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Ben, how's insurance work while they're leasing it? Are we still on the look for insurance?
Good question. It could go either way. As it is now, as it is written, the city would maintain insurance on the building as our building. It would remain presumably under the municipally plan that we have. You know, it's one of our minor buildings, so taking it off there, I would assume would not save the city a terrible amount of money. So I would imagine it would stay under our current municipally building plan. It is under there now. It just received a new roof, Mayor, not that long ago. Is that correct? And that was all done through the municipality plan.
Do we anticipate that those premiums would increase as the value of the building increases?
It could, yes. To be honest, I do not know how that plan works. Maybe others here might speak more to it, but presumably it would, yes, sir.
Can I say something?
Certainly.
Well, with the tornadoes and everything that happened, we got over $1 million in roof repairs. We did check that, and they have that building already insured at $800,000 at the
rate we already paying.
So it wouldn't go up; it would stay the same.
Thank you.
So there wouldn't be any increased cost there. Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome. I thought Corey was going to delve into it, but I'll go ahead and explore where he was going. I did not see a provision in here for them to have renter's insurance.
Yeah, no,
I would think that should be required, that they have renter's insurance.
it allows them to. We can certainly make a requirement if the council prefers.
That's the only questions I had on the insurance aspect of it. The other question that I've got is who is going to determine the $600,000 value of improvements? Where is that going to be determined from?
That's a good, as it is now, from costs actually expended, they will have to give reports to the city, kind of that how and when that happens is laid out in here. It's laid out right now as quarterly reports with the mayor, council, or anyone else from the city able to request additional information as needed.
Okay.
So as it is now, it would reflect actual costs spent for the improvements.
Actual cost.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Anybody got any other questions? Yes, sir, go for it.
I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but you referred to any improvements made becoming permanent fixtures
Yes, sir.
in the building. I'm pretty sure there's going to be some content that may not be permanent, whether it's leased or otherwise. We won't be on the hook for any payments for that should something
No.
negative happen.
No.
But I just wanted to make sure.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a contractual thing between them and whomever they may be renting or leasing
Yes.
equipment from.
In order for us to be on the hook, we'd have to sign a piece of paper putting us on the hook. It'd have to come before you, and I don't see that happening. But no, it's
And then I had the
a good
renter's
question.
insurance question too, so.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's what triggered the renter's insurance question from me, is to make sure that the contents, I understand us keeping the insurance on the four walls and roof. I understand that. I don't have any problem with that at all. But the contents
Yes, sir.
inside that building, if something happens.
We can certainly make that requirement.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
That's the only reason I brought that up a while ago.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Anybody? These are such good questions. Let's go some more.
Ben,
Yes, sir.
has there been a third-party appraisal done on the building?
Not to my knowledge. If there has, I have not seen it.
Why not?
I don't know.
All right. So why aren't we selling the building? Have
That-
we explored a lease-to-own option? Have we done a cost analysis with the city if it's a better benefit for the city to sell the building versus lease the building.
Sure. So I can only really speak to, from the legal perspective, from the lease to own. City cannot do lease to own. That's considered to be financing, and we can't do that. But the rest of it, I'll let the mayor. I don't know.
Ed, may I?
Yes, absolutely.
That was never addressed, Brandon, because we want to maintain control of the downtown. And when I say that, what I mean is we want to maintain control of our tenants. If the Buckmans, for some reason, something happens, I hate to be negative, and they leave or sell out to somebody else, they might not be friends of the city. And then we're going to have a lot of issues with those people. Plus, we know traffic's a big issue in town. Right now, we own that property. We're trying to get a first right of refusal on some other property located in the area where we can do maybe some road expansions or do a roundabout. So we don't want to lose control of what we have. And it's a little sentimental too to me, because that was one of the only buildings standing after the tornado. It was built in 1962, and I think it's kind of a cornerstone of Cabot that God kind of saved our little administration building. And I guess it means more to me since I was raised here. But just control. I mean, we're investing. We've already spent over $2 million in the downtown, and I don't want it to look bad. I don't want them to decide they want to move or it's not working out and they sell it to somebody else that doesn't care about the city and downtown like these people do. That's why you maintain control. So no, that was never done for that reason. I don't think it was in the city's best interest.
So you're telling me you're in favor of growing the government and controlling properties downtown to prevent private sector businesses coming down?
I'm not growing the government, Brandon. Growing the government's with people and services. I don't know which books you read, but it's not to own real estate. I'm a Republican. I'm chair of the Republican Party of Lonoke County. I'm not in favor of big government. I'm in favor of smart government, and that's what we're doing here.
Maybe a Republican, but not a conservative.
I'm a conservative. I'm a progressive businessman that knows how to make money and knows how to protect our city. I want these same police officers. This guy over here has been here 25 years, and he deserves the rightful amount of pay. I don't think I should raise taxes on these people in this room to pay his salary. So I've got to find it elsewhere. That's why we did a bond issue. That's why we've done some of these agreements, so we can have other sources of revenue to keep our city healthy and safe. That's what we have to do. And that's what we've been doing, this administration's been doing. It's not to be a big government. It's to keep us looking nice, to keep this place family friendly and looking really sweet, because the government, or the city, I don't consider us the government, the city cares. We're a servant to the people. We're not a government. I'm your servant. I'm your mayor. I'm here spending my evening and spending my time to try to make this city better. And that's what I've been trying to do for almost 6 years. And I can go to sleep at night. I feel like I've been doing that. And I think the support of this council has helped me do that. But in no way is this big government trying to control all downtown. We have an asset that is in our vision. This is long-term planning in our revitalization, and this is part of the puzzle. That's all this is.
Mayor, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
And again, don't want to be a negative Nancy. If we were to sell the property, okay, that property owner then has total control over the future of that building. If it's torn down, is it a buildable lot?
Yeah, for maybe a little Alltel building with 2 employees, the setbacks are so far. I think we did discuss that, and I can't remember how big a building we thought. Maybe I don't know. I would speculate if I told you, but it wouldn't be big. I don't think anybody would want to buy it.
I'm just trying to envision what or if anything could be put in that spot other than what's already there.
I could name some businesses that, well, I'm not going to be derogatory.
Can I address one more? Safety is always a critical thing for me. We've had downtown Cabot Fest, Strawberry, and we have had some incidences where people were trying to cross the street and there's been people hurt. Can this renovations include some kind of active crosswalk? Can that be done through the lease as a part of the improvements on the property to protect the patrons that may be going across that street? It's a fast street.
Something like a crosswalk can be done. In fact, that's, I haven't been in all of the conversations, but that's been mentioned in several of the conversations that I've been in.
James, or Ed, can I?
Yes.
James, we're going to put that as part of one of the things they have to do in planning, that they have to do that. But let it be noted, for 40 or 50 years, we had a fire engine that stopped and people ran into each other trying to park in that for so many years. So it is needed, I agree with you, but it's not going to be as big as a problem it did when the fire station was there.
Okay. I think it's good to note that this building does have a history with us as a city. This building originally housed our city hall, our police department, and our jail, and later was taken over as fire department. So there's a lot of history. We lost a great deal of history in 1976. When tornado wiped out our downtown, it wiped out the history of the city. We have redeveloped, and we've been thinking and looking forward in things like bicycle lanes, greenways. These are all things that forward-thinking cities like Fayetteville and Springdale and Bentonville are already doing. And there are facilities for bikers and for families along that way. You know, this is not so far-fetched as being a part of that downtown entertainment district. But the building has a lot of history for us, and we don't have many of those left. I'd hate to see it be torn down. It's in very ill repair now.
Anybody else? Any questions?
Ben, if we did sell the building, couldn't you put a deed restriction on that?
Yes. I mean, there are a category of permissible deed restrictions, but you could put a permissible deed restriction on it. Yes, sir.
Indulge me a minute, Ben, to
Yes, sir.
kind of not necessarily get off track, but to explore another track that has been mentioned. The mayor mentioned it, James just got through mentioning it. It has been mentioned to me by some citizens. I would like you to tell us exactly where we stand now as with the Arts and Entertainment District that was passed. The way that I read it, and I'm just telling you my novice reading of the thing, it looks like to me all that was accomplished in that legislation that was passed was an identification of an area. There were no permissible or restrictive uses put on it other than what is already either in state statute or by city ordinance. Am I correct on that?
Yes, sir. You have stated it correctly. So in early 2019, there was an ordinance passed by council establishing an arts and entertainment district. The effective district as it is basically just the central downtown area. It would encompass the property we're talking about, but it doesn't go much broader than that. This was before my time, so I cannot speak to why. For whatever reason, procedures, policy, rules were not established, were not enacted by the council at the same time. Under state statute, the state does not dictate a whole lot of what goes on in the arts and entertainment district. It leaves it up to the municipalities. And for whatever reason, that was not done at the time. So while you have an arts and entertainment district, This property is within it. There are, as it sits right now, there are no rules, policies, procedures for utilizing that district. So yes, there is one. It is effectively not usable by private parties at this time.
The question that has been presented to me, and I have answered it very similar to what you just did then. I hope I've been right on this. If not, I apologize, and I'll make some phone calls in the morning. But the questions that have been asked to me, that during Cabot Fest, Strawberry Fest, or a family reunion in the rail yard or whatever it might be, we do not have anything in our ordinances now, and there's nothing in state law that I know anything about that would allow somebody to carry outside the door of this brewery a beer and consume it in the public.
No, absolutely not. There are very, as it stands right now, that would, no, you cannot do that in the Arts and Entertainment District or anywhere else inside the city for that matter. As it stands right now, that district has no effect. If the brewery were to go there, there are very strict rules about being contained within that exact premises. In fact, you may have seen other restaurants around town. On back patios, you have to have fences up. They have to be a certain height. You can't just, you're not even allowed to walk by and look in as somebody walking by. So yes, that is absolutely correct. If the brewery were to open tomorrow, they could not serve alcohol to be consumed off the premises. That is absolutely correct.
That's the way I understood it. That's the way the legislation that was passed was only identifying an arts and entertainment district. There was no uses that was applied to that. So essentially, there was not anything there to be done. Also, another thing that we have got to deal with on this is the private club aspect of it. It becomes a private club, just like every other of the, I don't know how many restaurants we've got in town that are private clubs. It is exactly the same way. They have to do exactly the same thing, exactly the same way.
That is exactly correct. If the council passes this tonight, this is not the last time you will see this property. It will have to come before you for a private club license, separately, yes.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions to Ben? At all? Buckmaster, do you have any comments that you want to make on what has been discussed in the lease? You have anything you want to add to it, take away from it, say, I didn't know that was there, y'all are nuts, anything?
No, I think you've thoroughly gone through it and understand.
Okay.
Hey,
I have a
Ed,
question.
Yes, sir. Hang on, we've got a question. Yes, who is it?
I'm John Hart. I inherited property from my grandparents that owned Dos Flores there on the corner. We're in town for 30-plus years. Love the community, supported the community, gave back to the community. Just talking about all this profit the city's going to be making off this lease, I don't have a problem with. But I have a problem with possibly my tenant. He only serves breakfast, he only serves lunch and dinner. We've been gracious to the community, allowed people to park there. There's Strawberry Fest and Cabot Fest. And we don't ask for payment. We don't want payment. We love the city. My grandparents love the city. What are y'all going to do to keep people from parking on our parking lot? Hindering our tenant is really where I'm at. You know, because you're going to park back here, it's going to be full. You're going to park across the street, it's going to be full. What are you going to do over here by the church? That's what I'm concerned about.
I mean, I'm happy to answer. It won't be popular, but the answer,
I believe that.
the answer
It
is,
didn't make.
I mean,
And that's a problem.
the answer is not much. The city cannot enforce private parking lots. City does not enforce private parking lots. If somebody's parking on your property who's not there right now, you can call and have them towed. I can't call and have them towed.
So I'm going to have the same problem that Three Flamingos had with Purple Lane.
Yes. Yes, you will.
That's ridiculous.
Yes. City cannot enforce private parking lot rights. Cannot do it.
What is your projected maximum occupancy?
At this time, it's about 102, I think, 102 people. So that back parking lot should be able to hold, the city annex parking lot should be able to hold most of that.
Well, the parking lot stuff will all be vetted out at the planning commission whenever you do that. Also, at that point, Ben, correct me, but at that point, you will also need to have any agreements with your neighbors if you're going to use their parking lots to be presented at that time as well. So if you don't have an agreement, you can't use it. Ben's right, you know, they can have your customers towed, which I don't think they're going to like that very well. They won't park there a second time. Anybody got any more questions? Audience, council, anybody on this particular aspect of this?
Yes, sir, I have a question. So I was reading the state statute, it's 3-4-206, and it states that our state of Arkansas will not allow sales of alcohol within 1,000 feet of a school or a church. And it's about 200 feet off from the First Baptist Church.
That's not for a private club. When a private club is exempt from that restriction.
And I understand that, but I think that just because we can doesn't mean we should.
And I'm not debating that, but I'm just telling you that a private club is exempt from that restriction on
Where is
that.
that exemption stated at?
It's under the private club. See, everything here has to be a private club. Ben can probably explain a little bit better, but private clubs are exempt from that. Unfortunately, that's the truth.
And I would also state by law, we don't enforce ABC regulations. They change all the time. They do exactly what they want to do. It could be, that could be exactly the law, and if ABC still allows it, they still allow it. We do not enforce ABC regulations, cannot enforce ABC regulations.
Yeah.
I've no desire to get in the business of
So when
enforcing
medical
ABC regulations.
marijuana becomes rec marijuana, and we went over to a private club across the street by the church, which I wouldn't do, it would be allowed. You're telling me you can't control what the ABC does?
There are no private clubs for marijuana, as far as I
There
know.
will be when it's rec.
If they-
There are, when it becomes rec, it will be.
If the state law allows it, then yes.
It's going to.
That has to go to the state,
It'll be rec.
that one take over with the state legislature. These people can't do
So we're
anything
going
about
down
that.
that road.
These people can't do anything about that.
We don't want Cabot to
Also,
grow.
I think I read the statute, and there were 3 amendments made to that. There was one in 2015, one in 2017, one in 2019. And the only one that mentions that even comes close to this is that they allow for home brewing. And that this doesn't fit into that because it's going to sell alcohol. And I feel like the intention of the legislators who wrote that statute was to prevent something like this. And I feel like the city is trying to skirt the statute by going beyond what our legislature approved.
Sure, and I would just say the city is absolutely not applying for anything. Would not apply for anything. It's completely up to ABC. They get to enforce their own things. Have to enforce their own things.
They have to apply to the ABC. We're not applying to the ABC. And that statute applies to liquor stores,
You know what the use of the building will be.
but it's within the law.
Yeah.
How is this any different than like overtime? I mean, what's the difference? Like,
It's no different from any other private restaurant in town. There's 19 of them. Every Mexican place that serves liquor, it's the same thing. And like Ben said, they're going to have fences up. You can't walk outside. You're not going to know what goes on there unless you go in there.
You're not opening a strip club.
You're going to love the traffic. You already do.
We're not vote on it. On the city vote to make it wet.
Yeah.
That's what the city wants.
The city can't do that.
It's county.
What's the definition of a private club, and what distinction are we currently, is that being enforced?
And so, I mean, it's enforced by ABC. The city has no enforcement of it. You have to apply to the city, and then, you have to apply to the city council. They either put their stamp on it or don't, and the application's forwarded to the ABC. I mean, there's a long list that ABC enforces. It has to be, primary food sales within certain locations, certain size, but that's all controlled by the ABC.
Ben, I know that we're digressing again, getting off of it, but I've had the same question asked to me 3 different times, twice at the last council meeting. Well, why didn't Cabot just go ahead and put it on the ballot and vote Cabot wet? let the people decide one way or the other. I know that it's off topic a little bit, but would you address who is in charge of putting the wet and dry on the ballot?
Sure, so that came up before the legislature, actually, I think it was about 10 years ago, and they basically punted on it. But it is not the city council. The city council has no control over that. Eventually, if it gets control, it will go by county, not by cities. So it won't be these people anyway. It is completely controlled by the state. I will tell you that there has been discussion in the spring about bringing that back. Like, I've heard people discussing that. So look for it. It may be coming in the future, but right now it's not. That is completely done by the state.
James?
As long as we're talking about this, was Lone Oak as a county voted dry by the county and the people in that county?
It was voted dry by the county. I honestly could not tell you the history of that when it happened.
It was May of 1944.
But yeah, there you go. There you go.
44.
That sounds like it's right after Prohibition.
Anybody else?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Good Lord.
I'm just going back a few, but what, and I looked in here, and maybe I missed it because there is a lot of reading, but what are your hours going to be?
That's a great question, so, oh, yeah.
It's fine. I can hear you, or you can go ahead.
So, I know there was questions about, what is it a same, like an overtime or things like that? Breweries are actually a little different than, and if you look in Arkansas law, I think they voted in about 2017. And so there's a lot of distinctions between us and say like a normal bar. We'd probably be only open till about 9 or 10 at night. We are at first looking to do more of a soft opening. We would like to be lunch and dinner. That's kind of our main thing. Definitely close on Sunday, possibly even Monday. So it would be like a Tuesday through Saturday. And, I think at first we've talked about kind of having that soft opening at like 3 in the afternoon and just getting that dinner focus for right now. And then eventually getting into when we get the employees and we get the ability to really have that lunch and dinner aspect and more farm to table and craft food and craft drinks.
So it's lunch. I mean, that's ultimately your plan.
Lunch and dinner, yes, ma'am.
I'm just thinking traffic and what we could do.
Right.
Being good stewards of our neighbors, because I know that this is moving. I mean, this is moving. So we won't have the court traffic, but we also have 2 businesses at the end of this. And then ultimately, I don't think we're gonna let this sit here and be empty forever. I don't know. I mean,
I'm going to try not to.
and so there's obviously gonna be another business in here. And then across the street, yeah, a lot of your offices are moving from the police, but the jail is still going, it's going to. So we'll still just have the city hall over there,
Just
right?
City Hall.
So in my mind, this is gonna be vacant for a little bit, but probably not for very long. So this is still gonna have parking here. The 2 businesses next to you are still gonna have parking. So I just don't know where it's all gonna go during lunch without having to cross the street.
Right.
And I get it, like, I'm not against alcohol, I'm not against drinking, that's your priority, but also I've been around people that drink, and I just do not feel comfortable leasing a building and then saying, you have to walk across the street in good conscience after drinking with the Cabot traffic that we already have, because we know it's horrible and it's jam-packed and no one pays attention because there's only one road in and one road out. And so I'm just working that in my brain. I'm not saying no, I'm just working of parking in my brain. That's it.
Has anybody else on the council got any more questions for Ben concerning the lease or anything in the legal realm on this? Anybody? Anybody in the audience who thought of anything else you need to ask our attorney?
Ed?
No, I don't have anything specifically for the attorney, but I did have a lot of things I wanted to say, and I'm now trying to do that.
No, sir, not yet. Just hang on,
Okay.
buddy. I won't forget you.
Is it okay if
Go
Pastor
ahead.
if the pastor here introduces his family and tell them about, came here, he's a small business person, small mind, he's not corporate America.
Go into their presentation.
Before you begin, my administration has been shelled with helping the big guy, helping the hotels or helping Chick-fil-A or whatever comes in. So we go and we try to help a little guy like you, and we're getting shelled as well. So I want them to kind of know you and your family and the kids, and you're part of this community.
Thank
So,
you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, my name is Chris Robbins. That's my grandma. Robbins is actually, she was Betty Buckman, still is. She's 101. She lives up at the Lake of the Ozarks in Gravois Mills, and we just visited her. My great-grandpa was Paul Buckman, and then my great-great-great-great-uncle was, and aunt was John and Ruth Buckman, who owned the Buckman Tavern in Lexington, Massachusetts, where you can still go today. It's an actual historical monument. And the first battle of the Revolutionary War was fought in front of it. So I can never remember his name. Parker. Well, no, Paul Revere came out of it with Henry Holt. Yeah, so Paul Revere was actually hiding a chest in there that implicated Washington and Hamilton and everybody. And so they went out from there, took it as the redcoats were coming up, and it's quite a story. And there was a musket ball from that battle that was still in the door until about 1972, and someone decided to take it out and sell it, probably on eBay now. So, but that's our history. We have been about community, and even if it was my great-grandpa Buckman, Paul Buckman, who we called Uncle Bucky, but they had the only phone in town in Kansas, and he worked for the railroads. He was kind of a big mucky muck, and he worked for the railroads. And my grandma Hazel Buckman, my great-grandma, she would take all the kids in, and she would feed them every day, and then the people would come over and use the phone. And he brewed beer in his basement. He had a medical card that was given to him in the 50s or so, or 40s or 50s. I can't remember exactly when, and so my grandma remembers bottling, and my uncle remembers bottling, and all that stuff. And so it's just been a part of our family to not just be in the community we're in, but serve the community we're in, and have that hospitality. I was a vocational pastor for 15 years, 10 years as an assistant pastor, and 5 years as a full-time pastor, and have been in ministry. Both my wife and I have been in ministry for over 20 years. And we really believe that God's given us the gift of hospitality. It's just who we are. When people would come over, which was all the time, because we worked with a lot of young adults and kids, we were always feeding them. And my wife is very humble about it, but she's the best cook I've ever met. And it does not matter what it was. In fact, we just had a birthday party tonight for my granddaughter, who turned 9, and she made her sushi. And it was really good sushi. And I'm like, I didn't even know you could make sushi. So, that's just who we are. And so, but also not just making the food, but recognizing where that food comes from and having it locally sourced and farm to table and healthy, being a part of who we are. And she was a health coach for a number of years, and just caring about not just the outside, but the inside as well. And so for us, this is just an extension of our gifts that God has given us, which we want to create a place that feels like a hearth and home, that feels like a communal place where people can come, they can bring their family. I know there's been a lot of emphasis on alcohol. I do brew beer, I make ciders, I make seltzers, but I also make a lot of non-alcoholic things as well, very fresh sodas, natural sodas, natural kombucha. I do a lot of that stuff. And so there's going to be a lot of different aspects, and we want to bring in very natural, non-alcoholic things as well that people can enjoy and people can be a part of, as well as having that communal space that pretty much just allows for people to come in and enjoy and to stay and have a place in Cabot where people can feel that community and that relationships inside. So yes, and so Josh, this is my son-in-law and my daughter Rihanna, Joshua and Rihanna Smith. So they are also putting their house on the line, like we are. So, but they're all in. Joshua is our business manager. He ran and owned an RV and auto repair business that had 18 bays and did quite well, and sold it to move out here. And Rihanna has been, she actually worked for Chick-fil-A for 3 years. So she's been in service and she's been in a lot of different things, and she's gonna be more of our bar manager, you know, the events coordinator in front of the house. As I've already talked about my wife, who she's been serving people forever. And just as a kitchen manager, she's just gonna bring a ton of experience and everything in between that. And then I obviously in front of the house dealing with those things. So.
These are our granddaughters.
And these are grandkids.
We have 3 granddaughters, and our son Ethan is here. He's our baby, he's the youngest, he's 21, and we have 5 kids altogether. So we have 3 more girls who don't live in the state, who are in their 20s, and then we've got, this one is our extra, she was one of our youth kids, and she ended up being part of our family. Yep. And we adopted her. So, yeah, we're just super excited about bringing, like Chris said, we are very much about community. And when we got married, we've been married almost 26 years. We decided that we wanted to live our lives in service of others. And so we have always done that as a pastor's family, raised our kids, pastor's kids. We've been on the board of nonprofits. I was the director of a women's homeless shelter. We have always given back into the communities that we've lived in. We're excited to be a part of Cabot. We love history, which we love the history of the building. We love downtown areas. That's just who we are in the city that we just came from. We had a beautiful downtown area. And so we've been inspired by that place to bring here and to give back into the city. And we want to sow seeds here. We asked for a 20-year lease because we want to be here for 20 years. We have no thoughts of leaving. Yeah, we pursued that. We asked for that because we want to sow our seeds here and plant our feet here, and we want our kids to plant their feet here. So this is our legacy of what we want to leave.
This is going to be their first job, so that's the goal.
Another thing that we kind of didn't bring up, but my mom and I were photographers for a really long time. My mom for 20 years. I kind of took a lot of her clients for 6 years. But we are a creative family as well, and we really want to bring like art and creativity and community and live music to the downtown area. That's just part of our heart, that's part of our vision, is that we want to support local artists and upcoming creative people as well. So that's part of our vision. We want it to be a place not just for community to gather, but to like bring in other community members, so other businesses who maybe want to use the space, or people who want to, even in like off times, possibly have like events, creative writing workshops or different things like that. So that's really our heart, is that it's not just about like this beer or the brewery itself, but it's about eating together. What does it look like for family to sit down at a table and just have a good time and have conversation? We're just an extension of a family table. So that's really the vision. So.
Celebrations, promotions.
There's been a lot of heated debate about even putting a TV in the brew house, because,
Told her we have to have one. She doesn't want to have one.
Right.
I'm working on it, guys.
I gotta see it. I gotta see the Razorback games. So, but yeah, that's been a discussion. But in general, and one of the things that makes a brewery different as well is that in the law, in Arkansas law, as far as a brewery goes, is we actually have to, by law, give tours. And nothing against, like, say, a bar or something. They don't have to give a tour. We're different. We're an experience. We're an actual craft experience that we're trying to bring, as opposed to, and nothing like from other businesses or things. We don't want to compete with other businesses. We just want to be who we are. And that's what we kind of want to bring, obviously, to Cabot. So,
Well, we live local. We live here.
yeah.
This is our home.
Yes, absolutely. So.
I live right around the corner.
Is there anything else we should talk about? Sorry, it was just.
Well, I mean, just
Your
a couple
menu?
things.
Yeah, menu, yeah, why don't you?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about everything. So a lot of you guys, a lot of Cabot has had what we've been able to provide. We've been under the Food Act, the cottage law, but it's not called that here. It's called like the Arkansas Food Act. So we've been under that, so we can only serve what is shelf stable. So we've been all around at the farmers market. You guys, a lot of you have spoken to us at the farmers market. We have been doing sourdough, focaccias, cinnamon rolls, just anything that I could think of to make for you all now that we can. And we use non-GMO flour. You know, we're trying our best to keep our costs down, but you know, we're working hard on our ingredients. But when we're able to have a commercial kitchen, we're going to be able to serve with the law, with the commercial kitchen. So I'm so excited. I've been trying out all kinds of different recipes. We have some relationships with the local farmers in the area, some meat suppliers we have that are doing pigs right now. We're going to be doing pork belly sandwiches and just like homemade buns. Everything's all handcrafted. So the thing about craft food and craft beer is that everything's handcrafted. So it's the history of the thing, it's the doing of the thing, and it's the serving of the thing. And so that's what we are very excited about to bring, is to bring handcrafted things. Not that we're never going to have anything frozen, but that's not what our goal is. Our goal is to bring it as fresh as possible. Like Chris said, I've been a health coach for the past 6 years, and so I'm very passionate about providing good, healthy food to our community. Whatever I serve, whatever we serve, is going to be what we would eat with our families. And so that's really important to us. It's one of our values, and it's one of the values of our investors. And that's part of who we are as a family and what we want to give to Cabot. So that's our menu. We're talking about handhelds at first, but I would eventually like to hire an executive chef and offer like a full scale menu. Our inspiration is Brewed and Barley up in Argenta. We love it there. It's one of our favorite places in Arkansas. There's so many amazing places.
Similar food to what she makes.
There's so many amazing places that we visited here in Arkansas, and we just, we're inspired by all of them. So that's what we want to bring here to the city of Cabot.
And that goes to even with we never gave our kids soda as we were, raising them, partly because of just the amount of sugar and everything in between. And I couldn't even pronounce the stuff that was in it. And so, as of right now, we have different sodas that we've been giving our grandkids, which we were happy to, which has 3 ingredients, all natural. And, I even create my own CO2 and making my own stuff. So it's all handcrafted and not using just a bunch of junk and artificial flavors. So we want to do that, but not just with the food and not just with it. We also want to create community naturally. We're not going to force community, obviously, but we just create it naturally. And whether that's just every day before we start, just praying over the place and praying over every customer that comes in, because that's just who we are. So that's the concept of kind of what we're all about. And it's, sometimes it gets heated, such as, not having Coca-Cola there. Because we've had that conversation, but also, TVs and things like that. So, but we're definitely hoping to employ, I think the goal right now is 14 to 16 people, definitely as we're in full swing. So there's definitely going to be jobs. We want to pay our people more. One of the talks, I was a waiter for 10 years, I was a professional waiter, putting obviously 4 kids in 3 years. Can put a financial burden on a family. So, I waited tables for a long time, and I was just kind of shocked to learn that waiters out here and servers out here get paid just such a little amount until they make a certain amount in tips. And so that's something that we've talked about. We're just not going to do that. We want to pay people a better wage because that's who we are. Those are the people we minister to. So we want to minister to our employees just as much as we want to minister to the people that are around us. And I just have to say, who do you want in charge of the liquor cabinet? Somebody who cares, as a pastor, who is going to follow ABC laws to the hilt and make sure people do not walk out of my establishment inebriated. And I know that many of the places out here have that same commitment. And we want to carry that commitment and then some to make sure that all of our employees are serving and taking care of the customer in such a way where they are not going to hurt themselves. So we want to be very conscientious about the law, but also follow that.
Well, and I heard a lot of people talk about history of the building. And so one thing that we've talked about and already made some requests to was an old firefighter's uniform or something of that nature that we can have a spot in the building and pay tribute to those who held the building before us. So history is very important to us as it is to the building that's here and you guys. So that is one thought we've had. And one thing that we want to do is hold a space. One thought was the hose racks that are currently still there in the building, utilize that space and leave those there and possibly use that space. So we care about the history too, and we also want to pay tribute to that history that was once there before us.
Shine a light on it.
Anybody got any questions? At all? Anybody got any questions out of the audience for these folks?
My question is, why Cabot? You're not from here, right?
Not originally.
Okay, so there's availability, like in North Little Rock, there's lots of breweries that way. Why here?
We, first and foremost, this is our area that we live in. So to us, this is our community. And, you know, as a pastor, I always worked where I lived. That was just a big part of it because that was the community that I served. So for me and us in general, it's our community. We want to be here. And so we also want to bring something to Cabot that we just enjoy, that we love and are passionate about. One of the things that saddens me is that Arkansas is not known for craft beverages. In fact, if you follow the National Homebrewer or National Brewing Association, which is massive, every brewery, you know, even Budweiser is a part of that. And so the people that are winning awards and bringing these things that are just are amazing, none of them are in Arkansas. And so for me, I look at where we're at and we want to bring this recognition of this craft, which I believe can be here, and we don't have to go somewhere else to get it. We can actually have that here. One of the things that's interesting to us is we like to go to different places, and it's like we'll go to Argenta or we'll go to North Little Rock and we'll go to these places and they're great and there's nothing against them. But it's like we're almost setting up this pattern of, hey, everybody go out there, enjoy yourself out there, and then drive a heck of a way back in traffic and everything else. Whereas here, it's like you can just walk, ride a bike, come down the street, and have the same experience, if not better, and also bring that recognition, not just to Central Arkansas, but to Cabot, where we will be gold place winners, where people will say, where is this? And then we're also now on a place where people are going to want to come and stop and visit because they know that we're nationally doing really good craft beverage and beer and beverages or food, and people will want to stop and bring that into Cabot. So in a good way, you know.
And I think the second point would be, I feel like God's led us here.
Yeah.
Like my family and I, we sold our house over a year ago in California, and we moved into an RV. And we lived in an RV for a year. And we traveled the country. And our prayer was, God, lead us to the heaven that you have for us. Because we left California and all the nonsense that's over there. To put it nicely. We were looking for trees. We were looking for green. That was one of our big words, was green. And like, Lord, where do you have for us? We've been to Tennessee. We've been to Pennsylvania, we've been to North Carolina, Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, spent more time in Mexico than we wanted. But we've been to all those places, and the Lord brought us here. The way we got our house, that's the story. If you want to talk to me about that, it's a good story. It got us here. So why here? I don't know. God brought us here, He's put us here, we've fallen in love, we've put our roots down, and we want to share.
Why do you not want to own equity? Why do you not want to own something?
That's a really good question. I mean, in our,
You're gonna put all this hard work, all this effort into this community, heart and soul, you're not gonna own a thing.
Can I just say, like, our business is not the building. Church is not the building. It's the people. We're the business, and we have equity in us. That's why we're not afraid to lease a building. We're pouring into our community, and like I said, that's what we've always done. Every church we worked at, we never owned the building. Every lease payment we paid on the buildings that we worked in, we never owned the building. We walked away and never owned a thing. And we're used to that because we poured into the people. This person right here, our daughter, is our equity for the churches that we worked in. Our equity is in you guys and the community here. That's why we don't care about owning the building.
And, you know, I've been an entrepreneur for close to 20 years, and a lot of the businesses I've owned and run, we leased, we rented. And then as you got older, as you got wiser, as you got more money, as you were more profitable, as you employed more people, you would then start buying things. You start off with your first piece of equipment. Like I had an automotive shop. I had 18 bays and 12 employees. I didn't own everything the first year. The first year, we were making payments on everything, all the lifts. 2 years later, I owned all the lifts. 20 years down the road, that business, we had a right to first refusal on that property. When the guy was ready to sell, we bought it. We paid $1.3 million for that property. And we bought it. It took us 20 years, but we bought it. And we got it. And now that building and that business that I sold is doing well. Very well. But in time, we plan to buy things in equity and grow things. But at the beginning, it's hard. And so, like she said, equity is...
and I couldn't have said it any better than these two already, so I would just add to that. I am also not above saying we wouldn't, if there was a clause that, you know, the ability to own at one time or do it, we would be okay with that. So it's not that we are against it. You know, if that were, if there were a path to owning and making sure it stayed in the city and it's always going to be there, we'd be fine with that as well. So it's not that we are against that, but we're not afraid to you know, I was a teacher for the last 8 years. So I taught in Greenbrier. When we came here, I taught in Greenbrier for a year, and then I taught at BB. I was in ALE. I had 4th through 6th grade. One of the hardest years I've ever done, if you all know ALE. That's where all the kids go that cannot be in a regular classroom. And we purposely did not up our contract because we are all into this. This is what we are doing. And the amazing thing is the good Lord has provided. We've actually, you know, the good book says you can't live on bread alone. Right now we're paying our bills with bread. It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, when you look at the books, it's crazy how much we've sold in bread. And we have 4 markets all the way to West Little Rock that we're selling to because our product is good, and I believe in it. And so at the end of the day, I know that God has us here for a reason. And the relationships that we've made, and my favorite part is the farmer's market. I love standing out there, and I just love talking to y'all because that's who I am. I'm a relational person. I've always been that way. And so, you know, and as I told people, because there was a lot of things that were happening, and as many of you know, there's a lot of social media and a lot of things, and I've been telling everybody, I don't care. As a pastor, I said, here's my finances. Go ahead and take a look at my books. You want to look at my Netflix queue? Go ahead. I got nothing to hide. This is who I am. And I've always been that way. That's how we've raised, you know, our kids. That's who we are. And so we're not afraid of that because we know that in the end, God is He's our vindicator. You know, He is the one that sets us right and puts the path in front of us, and we just follow it. So, you know, we're excited. Are we a little crazy? Probably. Probably. But that's okay because we know that He's had us ever since. So, yeah.
According to this article in the paper, thank you, Jeffrey, for this information, it said that you're going to be featuring breads, soups, salads, kombucha, teas, sourdough breads, non-alcoholic ciders, and fresh-made soda.
Yes.
Sounds fantastic. I would support that.
Yeah.
This is a dry county. Right, we need to have an alcoholic beverage come in. There's also talk about a garden. There is a beer garden, according to this article, that's planned for the side of that building. It will be on the street. It will be apparently a public thing that people drive by and see. It will be a concern for people getting out on the street. There seems to be a contradiction going here, and I'm greatly concerned about this. Again, this is Dry County, and you're crossing the line when you're using city facilities to support in a non-alcoholic, in a dry county, that type of business. You cross the line. If it's a private business, not renting from the city, that's a totally different thing. We've let that go for 16, I believe it is now, alcoholic beverage licenses. We've let that go now, but this is drawing the line. We have overstepped it, we've crossed it over. This is a family community. This is not an alcohol party community. I think we need to limit it, and we need to get focused again on what the city is about. It's not about serving alcohol. It's not about art and entertainment district. It's about family. You talk a lot about community and family. I love that. Let's eliminate the alcohol and I'll be there.
I can't speak directly to the city council with alcohol and other things like that. But what I can say is that everything that we have proposed will be in the guidelines with ABC. And even if eventually the idea, we do have the idea of having a beer garden out there where it's outside seating, that would all be set up in a way that you cannot see in due to ABC laws. And so it would still be away from the public as far as very much what Overtime has done and other places due to ABC-based regulations and laws. So we would adhere to that 100%.
Ben Hooper, who owns that alley, that city property, it would be part of that property that they're renting, correct?
It's a city.
It would not be part of what they're leasing, correct?
No, they're leasing the 114 West Pond.
So that would not be part of, it would not be that alley that would be included, sir? For a beer garden?
No.
Unless there's some kind of, something was put in place between us,
Right.
First Baptist and us.
Right.
There used to be a road that goes through there. The church built on it, and we had grants, we'd share that. That's why we agree with shared parking.
Right.
But you got a good point. You'd have to have some kind of.
There is a planted alleyway there right now.
So is that part of this agreement, Mayor?
There's your
City council?
attorney right there is not in agreement, miss.
Okay, so that would not be part of,
So that would change some other things, absolutely.
so no
yeah.
beer garden?
Probably no beer garden then, until things change. But again, it would all be based on what we can and cannot do through, in the law, but also city council and legal and everything in between. So yes, we would adhere to that 100%. We want to be above the line, and yes, we would be serving alcohol. I can't tell you other than that, but at the end of the day, we are going to make sure that, we are going to do things not just by the book, but by the book and then some, as far as possible as we can, because that's who we are.
I have a question about, so a lot of people haven't been in the building, but if you have been in the building, you know that it is in horrible shape.
Yes, ma'am.
It is in horrible shape.
It finally stopped leaking.
Yeah. So I don't know if you can tell me this or not, but have you hired a contractor?
Yes, ma'am.
Construction? Okay, and you've obviously hired an architect.
And they are here
That's-
tonight.
That's what we see. And they're saying that you can, what are they saying? How much is it gonna take you to get this building from the day the lease starts until the day you open? How much money?
That is a complex question, because there's phases.
Yeah.
And
Until you can open under the guidelines of the law and all that, how
Right.
much money is it gonna take you?
we don't know, because it's construction, so,
We have our contractor.
yeah. Would you like to, this is Joseph Dunn.
Well, like you said, it is pretty complex because we're still waiting on a few things, designs and everything else. It is an aging building. Plumbing will be a must that we have to facilitate the number of individuals going to be using the facilities. Of course, grease traps when, with a commercial kitchen and well within guidelines, electrical, HVAC, all that stuff will fall under everything. But as far as a number, it's still TBD. But we are going to make massive renovations to the building and make it a space that everybody's happy with.
You're gonna have to make massive.
Absolutely.
But on the business side of it, I would want to know about how much I'm going to have to spend to get this building to open.
As in, like,
Money.
The city's cost?
the city's
No,
cost?
not our cost. It ain't
No,
me.
no, no,
It ain't
no,
me. I'm
no,
not paying for it. I'm talking about as a business owner that is leasing this building, that is leasing it for a certain amount of renovations. Is it gonna go over that amount before we even get it open?
Well, that's why we work together to make sure that change orders are as minimum as possible, and also we try to do as much as we possibly can. So I myself can do electrical, HVAC, and we are also the general contractor, so that's money saved there, thousands saved there by not using.
I think Maggie's question is, do you have the money set aside
The
for what
money-
you think it's gonna cost? Because you had to put $152,000 of your own money into it per this business plan you presented that we showed the public. Are you gonna, right now, with what you think it's gonna cost, do you have the money to do that?
Yes.
Yes.
Sir. With our SBA
Yes,
seventy,
yes.
we have
Right.
procured, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That was part of the, for us to get an SBA loan,
Mhm.
we had to have multiple bids. He's not the first contractor that
He's
we
the third.
contacted. So we've had multiple bids, and we've had to show a breakdown of exactly how much everything, within ranges, how much it was gonna be, for us to secure the loan.
So this is-
What were the bid amounts to get that building up to standards to be able to open? What were the bid amounts?
Yeah, I don't have any of those numbers with me tonight, I'm sorry.
I want to interject for a minute. This is, I've never seen anything like this. I have built multiple buildings in this city, residential and commercial, and remodeled. I've never pulled the trigger without a bid. I don't know what TBD means. TBD is something very preliminary. If you're here trying to sign a lease, and let me just say this. You guys, I think there's gonna be a lot of emotional arguments tonight. This, I don't think, is the place. It should be about logic and reason. Right now, we're talking about numbers. What's the bid?
The overall bid?
What's the bid?
Right, well, right now, for
We've
phase
got a
one.
lease that says you have to write $600,000 of improvements. What's the bid?
Right, so right now for phase one to open, we have about $300,000 that we're looking at, 330. That is for phase one. So that is opening the door, being able to start collecting income for the business, being a bakery as well as a brew house. Now, that does not mean that's the total amount, because obviously we have to continue with that, and we're looking at phase two and phase three. So
And there's unforeseen costs, we haven't broken ground yet, we don't know what's below that ground.
Right.
We don't know what's gonna be used with parking, we don't know what's gonna be used with crosswalks. So what we can see initially to walk in the door, we're looking at 300 plus.
Patrick, they've already,
So my I'm trying to
Patrick,
I'm
here's
trying
an
to
email, they've already addressed
streamline
this.
It's like 254.
Yeah.
I'm trying to streamline this. It's after 8 o'clock, guys. We gotta move this. You gotta get the 600,000. Tell me how you're getting the 600,000 of improvement on this building. That's the question these people want to know. I saw a business plan that said 254. Where's the other 350 coming from?
well, as we said, that's phase two and that's phase three, and
So
all
tell
that
me
will
what
be.
looks- So I'm gonna say this 10 times tonight.
Right.
Tell me what that looks like. Tell me what phase 2 looks like.
Right.
Well, we can't see into the future.
You gotta be able to see in the future. You're trying to save time.
Patrick, listen. Ben over here just told you before, they've got to give us quarterly reports of what they spend, and that's their credit to the lease. If they only spend 300, we've got to revise the lease and bring it back to council. If it's 400, we got to revise the lease. If it's 600, we don't ask anybody how much it's going to cost to do their building. That's not the city, that's big government. We don't ask people how much it's going to cost.
You're trying to put it in the lease that says
Nope.
it's 600.
And we're going to get receipts from them.
And so my question
so if
is,
we don't get
what
it-
is 600 being spent on?
He's giving you what he has right here so far.
I saw 254.
Okay. 253,
That's
506.
what I'm asking, what that looks like.
Equipment purchases, some of this could be stuff that's maintained into the building. A big stove, you can't take it with you. That's 152. Commercial kitchens cost a lot.
We're gonna count, so I just wanna be clear. This is the question, I'm trying to vocalize what the questions I've been hearing the last 48 hours. So this 600,000 is also including your fixtures,
As far as I know.
correct?
The ones that are permanently.
The ones that are permanently, yes, that are.
Okay.
Wait till Laura gets a hold of y'all, y'all gonna be in trouble.
So again, like, I'm just, Mayor, I'm trying to help streamline for you, I promise.
No, but that's not your purpose.
The question is you got phase 2 and phase 3.
Right.
What is that time frame? Because Ben has a position where we're getting the city's getting the 600 up front, right? So 3 years from now, if you guys go belly up.
Whoa, he's giving an example, 3 years. Go ahead, Patrick.
I think it was said earlier, because there was a question about what happens if they break the lease. That was a question if y'all weren't paying attention. And the answer was, the city was getting it up front, right?
Well,
They
it's,
get the benefit.
The benefit of
the
it.
600,000 in improvements.
That's my
improvements that's
question.
coming
Tell me when we get the benefit.
The schedule.
Right.
What's the schedule? That's what I'm asking.
Right.
Tell me what phase 2 and phase
So-
3 looks like.
yes, so phase 2 and phase 3, what we're trying to do is we're trying to open the doors, and opening the doors doesn't necessarily take 600,000 right now. So I think that is an arbitrary number that's been put up and saying this is what it's gonna take to do, take a building from here to there. We are able to take the building from here to here for that 300, 350, and then the extra will be added in. What we're looking at, putting a patio, we're looking at, if we're able to, putting in the beer garden, if we're able to, taking out walls, making it more open. So there's things that we're looking at doing and putting in those renovation costs as of right now. I mean, we could get into the particulars, again, this is all part of the business plan, but what you have is you have a walk-in cooler, you have different areas. Breweries are very different than most places. So a simple fact is I have to have a cold room. Cold room has to be from 38 to 32 degrees. I'm gonna be storing 100 kegs in there. There's a lot of different aspects that's gonna cost a lot of money. So upgrading that, making that, that's all a part of that with that 2 and 3. That is all down the road. I can't give you exact dates on it because we have to, it is determined on how much we are making as well, because we're trying to put that in. A part of the loan is also paying, it's getting equipment. There's a ton of equipment that we need. There's also people. We need to pay for people. So it's.
But the lease doesn't contemplate people.
Right. And I get that.
I'm asking a very specific question, we're still not getting a good answer.
And I wish I could answer you
But
specifically.
you said the word arbitrary.
Right.
Do you know what that means?
Yes, I do know what it means.
Tell me what arbitrary means.
So it is a number that's.
Oh, come on now.
We know that.
He just said $600,000.
He's out of order.
Okay, he said $600,000 was an arbitrary number.
Well,
Maybe I missed. Order. Listen. Ben Hooper over here said, if everybody's listening, even you, Patrick, said he's going to give quarterly reports. If it doesn't reach 600, we have to revise the lease. If it's 300,
How long?
Okay.
they told us over 6 months they'll have the business open. So in 6 months, they don't have only spent 300, they only get 5 years for free. Or 5 years of rent credit. They don't get 10. Okay? The city's going to get the cost of the amount that they invest in the building that's part of the building. And if it's less than 600,
That's not what the lease says.
well then all we need to do is put amendment in there instead of asking what arbitrary means.
Well, then why has that not been done?
Well-
That's not what it said.
Well, that could be what you got up and said instead of berating these people up here, these good people.
I'm asking the question. You guys say 600,000, and I'm asking over what time?
Ben, could you
Tell me
put
what
an
the-
exception there that says if it doesn't reach 600,000 per the receipts, that the credit will be redetermined based on?
It's already in here.
I thought it was too, but
It says $600,000, Patrick, over 10 years. Now, that's
That's
what
my
it says.
question.
Now, that's what it says. That's the first line of paragraph 2. Let me read it. During the first 10 years of the lease, as rent, the leasee shall complete at least $600,000 in repairs and improvements. That's 10 years. Break it down at $60,000 a year, $5,000 a month. Any way you want to add it up. You know.
But I concur with Patrick.
$600,000 over 10 years, so
But if
they got 10 years to do the $600,000.
The
According to this
question
lease
was
now.
asked earlier, what happens if they default on the lease? So 3 years in, right, it's not making money, and they breach the lease.
Okay.
Right.
And they put 300,000 in.
Then they walk away from that 300,000 according to this lease.
And what are the damages for breaching the lease?
To be
Well, there's nothing in
300,000.
here. No, let me answer it. Damages, Patrick, would be them forfeiting what they've got in it.
And the remainder of the lease. If we stay there for 3 years and we spend $300,000, our lease ends at 3 years, we're forfeiting the remainder of that 10 years. So we're not just forfeiting 300,000, but we're also forfeiting another 300 for the remainder of the lease.
Now you're breaching the contract.
Right.
So
That's
my
correct.
question is, we don't have anything there about damages.
Ben, would you like to?
I mean, honestly, not really. I'm not gonna go into lease interpretation here for everybody. I think what it speaks for itself. I'm standing on what I already stated. I'm not gonna get into that more. That doesn't help nobody.
Okay. I think it would be, in my mind, it would be a breach of contract. We would probably bring that for the city council and ask them, do you want us to pursue them for the extra 300,000 they didn't put in our building, even though it hadn't stayed there in years 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or do we just let it go? And I would think the council would probably say, time served, but I don't know. But, and I'm not trying to interpret for you, but anyway.
Can I finish?
Yeah, go ahead, Maggie.
Okay. So, sorry. So that's one of my concerns was how much is it gonna cost? And then I think I just heard the mayor say that you think that you're gonna be open in how many months?
It said 6 months on this deal I read.
Okay, so
The stuff you
6
gave us.
months, you're gonna be able to get all that work done.
We're gonna try.
Okay. Okay. And you have other investors, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I've got a question. You mentioned, or someone mentioned that you're gonna be serving alcohol, and I just want to clarify, are you gonna be serving hard spirits or just beer, wine, I don't know?
Right, so the brewery license allows for all of it. So a brewery license is different than, say, so a brewery license that was set up, I think it was, like I said, 2017 when Arkansas revisited the actual brewery. It allows for production, it allows for retail, and it allows for distribution. Now, that breaks down in a dry county as far as what we can't sell it outside of the doors because of the dry county. It can be sold inside. And so, but it's also tagged on to all alcohol. So we can produce it, but we can also get distributors. We can work with Ace Liquor or whoever as distributors to get also spirits or alcohol there as well in a bar situation. But it wouldn't be a bar as far as, say, you know, a normal bar that's open to a certain amount of time, because it would always have that restaurant aspect. It wouldn't just be served just liquor. So.
Phil?
Thank you, Mr. Long. If you don't mind, I'm gonna use the podium just because I have some stuff scattered out a little bit here. And don't let that scare you, I'm not gonna be forever. I'll be very fast and quick. I'm Phil Robinson, 24-year resident of Cabot. And I want to first say I appreciate y'all, I appreciate your energy and your enthusiasm and your stated mission and for what you're doing. So don't let anything that I'm going to say here focus on you. I'm focusing on the whole situation as I go through. So thank you for that. Mayor, Tammy, Council, it's a pleasure to be here again. I wanted to start by stating that I am vehemently opposed to having a microbrewery or brewery here in Cabot, at least until the law is changed supporting the existence of one here. Current state law is spelled out in Arkansas Code Annotated 3-5-1204, and that's in paragraph B, which doesn't have any exceptions to it. Says microbreweries are not permitted in dry areas. As Lonoke County is a dry area, Cabot is dry as well.
and should not have a microbrewery or a brewery in the city limits of Cabot. I think it's important now to take just a quick minute and examine how this question got to where we are tonight. Many years ago, and reinforced not so long ago, the citizens of Lonoke County voted to make Lonoke County dry. And as you're all aware, dry means drinking is prohibited in the city, in the dry area, however the boundaries are for that. According to our county clerk's office, that decision still stands. We're still a dry county. Since that vote, Cabot elected officials have seen, many times encouraged through waiving of readings and acting emergency clauses, at least 16 permits to serve alcohol in our restaurants, both theaters, bowling alleys, sports bars, and among other areas here in Cabot. As I read through Arkansas codes on private clubs, I uncovered some eye-opening information. First, I saw restrictions to the maximum number of alcohol sales locations in a jurisdiction to 1 per 5,000 residents. With 16 of them, Cabot would have to be nearly 80,000 residents to support that ratio. I also saw that private clubs are to be nonprofit. Most, if not all, of the private club applications approved by Cabot City Councils claim the clubs are nonprofit corporations. I've seen, or I have the latest one here with me tonight, the latest application for a private club. Right up here at the top of that one said, the line below it, you're filling in the nonprofit corporation, nonprofit name. And in a couple other places in the application it does it, but finally at the very end, where the applicant writes in the information here at the bottom, they wrote in, this is a nonprofit corporation with a private club alcoholic beverage permit that also provides alcoholic beverages to its members and guests. And this body has allowed that, what I consider a deception here in the law. Another move, this administration further discounted the will of the Lonoke County citizens by creating an arts and entertainment district in the heart of Cabot. Arts and entertainment districts have as their main purpose allowing patrons to buy alcohol from one alcohol serving business, carrying that alcohol to other businesses within the district. And I understand you said we don't have those rules allowing that for the one that we've got. But I'm unsure of the need to have an arts and entertainment district anyway, because if we have private clubs, those private clubs are limited to providing alcohol consumption on premises only, which means there's no place to carry it outside, so why have an arts and entertainment district? Who's carrying the alcohol around in that case? Now, you hope to, against the will of the people in earlier votes, not only allow the sale of alcohol, but allow the brewing of alcohol in Cabot in a city-owned building. This is a direct contradiction to the people's vote and a disregard for the people you were elected to represent. I'm here tonight to implore you to honor the will of Lonoke County residents and stop the brewery from opening its door in Cabot. Do not further the deception and bounce outside of the law about breweries not being allowed in dry areas, and not approve that lease as a brewery. Instead, if you feel like alcohol sales are the future of Cabot, then like many people have said earlier, let's go to Lonoke County, let's get the 38% signatures on the signature sheet and send it back to a vote of Lonoke County. Make it a wet county, then all of these arguments I'm making don't exist. Okay, I appreciate your time, appreciate all of you that have been here tonight. I'm sorry to add a little bit on to the end of a long evening already, but I appreciate you listening to me and hope that as you progress through these steps, you will consider what I said. Thank you all very much.
Hey, Phil, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Are you an attorney?
I am not.
Okay.
But I do read. I read very well.
That's all I have.
I read our ACA laws very well.
Did you read Act 681 of 2019?
Did you read 6A?
Phil?
Did you read Act 681 of 2019?
Oh, Corey.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I did or not.
Yeah, it looks like we passed a law in 2019 to allow dry counties to have microbreweries. It's Act 860, or 681 of 2019.
But if you're an attorney, you would have knew.
I'm not, though, I just Googled.
Seems I remember just earlier, you were getting on to somebody for berating folks, but I'll let
No,
that.
I'm not berating. I'm just trying to understand.
Thank you all very much. Sure appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
For those who do not know me, I'm Patrick Malikian. I live here in Cabot as well. I have a law office right down the sidewalk. So contrary to what you believe earlier, I'm not opposed to the brewery. I think it's a cool concept, cool idea. I don't have an emotional response about it. I'm a logic and reason type guy. So when we throw numbers out, I just want to know where they come from. I'm a businessman too, right? I own multiple businesses here in Cabot. So like when we're going to put a number out, I don't like the word arbitrary. I like hard numbers. Tell me what they are, tell me where they're coming from, tell me what we need to be looking at. So I would say if it was, you know, me, I would implore the council to table this issue for a couple of things. One, I think there need to be some amendments to the lease. I think we need to have some type of tiered approach. If we're saying 600 over 10 years, I think there needs to be some specifics in there about what that looks like. You know, are we talking about tables and chairs? What are we counting a permanent fixture? I have a lot of concern about, again, 3, 4, 5 years from now, these guys may be the best business people in the world. I don't know them. But I also looked up earlier today and saw that in 2023, in the United States, there were 420 breweries open. That's a lot. But 385 closed. So I have concern that if we get 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road, what does this look like when this lease terminates? I draft leases all the time, and I just don't say, we're all just gonna walk away. I mean, that's not how you manage a property. And so I have concerns about also this 600, like what are we counting it toward? Because most of the time, from my experience, when people open these businesses up, there's gonna be liens on different types of equipment, there's gonna be UCC filings, which Ben will know what I'm talking about. Are we counting that toward the 600 or are we excluding that from the 600? I just think we need to get some more definitive terms around those issues. Another issue that I have, and I talked to Alicia about it a little bit earlier, is that my building right down the sidewalk here backs up to this alleyway. The only handicap parking I have for my building sits directly behind my building. So if we block off this alley, we don't have access there. So we're going to come up with some type of alternative route or access to my building because that's the only zero entry I have.
The city owns that parking lot.
Well, I actually own a pad. I own half the pad and the city owns the other half.
Okay.
So, and my half sits on the inside. So it doesn't sit on the outside. So that alleyway has been the only access to that parking pad since 1982, when that was built. I love that building. I love that fire department when it was there. And I'd love to see something done with it. The problem I have though is, again, so we have handicap parking access is going to be an issue. Then we also talked about the parking. The answer that was given earlier was basically like, well, we'll figure it out. I don't like that answer. I think we need to get some definitive terms.
That's not the deal here. They do that in planning.
They what?
They do that in planning, Patrick. You know that.
Well, this is kind of my thing. I heard the gentleman say that.
Why here tonight is for council to give us a resolution for this administration to enter into a lease with Buckman Brewery.
Right.
And then they go through a bunch of other stuff.
And so we have a lease,
That's all
but
this
we don't
is
have
right
any
here.
parking. We don't have any parking, right? There's no parking with that building. Agreed?
There's no parking, but there's
Okay.
parking there that the city owns.
So this is, I mean, 2 spaces. Or are we talking about all out here?
I'm talking about all the spaces back in the city annex where we're parked out tonight.
All right, so.
It's city parking.
Great point. So this is.
City
this
owns
is-
all that, or leases all that from the railroad.
Absolutely. So this is the
That's right.
thing. So the gentleman said that they're anticipating about 100 patrons. When court is in session in this district court, when Clint McHugh's holding court,
We're not gonna hold court here.
no, I know,
We're not gonna hold court here.
Okay.
Court won't be here. It'll be down the street.
I know exactly where
At
it
the
is.
first of the year. No, it'll be at the new building. It won't be here.
Let
They
me
won't
make-
have it
Let me
ready.
make my point, Ken.
Well, they're not gonna be here. That's the point.
There'll be a new building here, at least somebody's going in here.
Hold on. I'm not even talking about this building. Let me make my point. When court is in session, right here, the parking out here is a nightmare. If anybody's driven by here, your officers will tell you, the parking is a nightmare, okay? If you go counting there right now, you got about 84 or 85 seats. That courtroom typically is not full. Those seats are not full. That docket is usually anywhere from, Ben could probably tell me, 150, 200 on any given day. You're lucky if 40% of them show. So we're not even talking about 100 people, and this parking lot is absolutely full.
Well, you said earlier they're gonna fail anyway, so they don't have to worry about parking.
I never said they were going to fail. That's not what I said.
Good stats.
I said if.
Why are you so negative? You're being so negative.
How am I being negative?
You're being mean to these people.
Okay, I don't even know
You're just
this.
berating.
Tell me specifically what I said that was berating.
It's your like energy.
Did I use this parking? I have 4 other tenants in my building.
Nobody goes to the restaurant alone, so it costs.
I have 4 other tenants in my building that use this parking lot as well. Greg Crumpton's office uses this parking lot as well. And so,
Yeah, you're
I don't,
battling over parking spots. Like, holy moly.
I don't like the idea of not having a parking plan and saying we'll
They don't
figure
have
it
to have
out.
one yet for this
To
lease.
benefit,
When you buy your building, you don't have access
to benefit, I have access right in front of my building.
city property, you can send jobs.
And I have access right in front of my building. I don't like the idea of us having this to be determined, we'll figure it out, to benefit a new business to the detriment of businesses that already sit here. Again, I like the idea of the brewery. My question is what does that look like? I said I was going to say that over and over, and I will. The problem is we don't have a plan.
Guys, we're gotta go through a lot of more plans. I gotta produce a site work plan. This is just for the council to let administration to enter into a lease, Patrick. You should know that more than anyone.
And I think that's the cart before the horse.
grandstand
You're doing a
in here about
lease before
parking
you know what we're talking.
that's gonna be settled in planning stages. They cannot get a license. They will not get an Oxby license without parking agreement, a mutual aid agreement that's set aside and that's cordial to the city of Cabot per UDC codes.
And I would ask the council.
And it doesn't need to be in a lease.
I would ask the council to table the issue until you have more definitive terms laid out on some of these things, like handicap parking, the regular parking out here, terms of the lease, until you just go sign the lease that's in place.
All we are discussing here is a lease.
Correct.
All of the aspects that you are addressing, yes, need to be addressed, but those are handled at the planning commission. They will sort all of that out, the number of parking spaces that are needed, whatever handicap parking places are needed. All of that will be discussed in the plan that they will have to adhere to. That is not our perspective on this. All we're doing is a lease.
And again, so you're okay with entering into a lease without any of those terms being defined?
When we discuss rezones, I'll just use that as an example. We don't discuss any of the plans for that property as long as that use falls under that criteria of the zoning.
Correct.
We don't get into that.
And our zoning code clearly defines the number of parking spaces based on the type of business and square footage.
And that's all worked out by the planning commission.
What's not, it's in the code. It's predetermined in the code. Right?
Right.
Agreed, okay. This has no, it can't be predetermined because there's no designated parking.
But that doesn't mean that they can't enter into an MOU with a surrounding entity.
And who would that be other than the city?
I don't know. That's not up to us.
That's up to them.
There's nothing else available. So that's what I'm saying. I think some of those terms need to be defined instead of just saying, let's enter into this lease and then we'll figure it out. That's all I'm saying. I think it's premature.
This may be a Ben or a Ken question, but to his point, if we do approve the lease and through planning stuff doesn't work out and they pull out, we're good, we're good? You know what I mean? Like, that would be the worst case scenario, is we just don't do it?
Yes, I mean, the worst case scenario for us is they pull out our building, stays the same as it is now.
Okay, I mean, that's what I'm, yeah, okay.
I have a question, just as somebody that does leases all the time. Does that not, shouldn't there be something in the lease, some sort of stipulation that states that if they don't get the licenses or the CO, that the lease is null and void? Because everyone's already signed the lease, so therefore it's a legal binding lease.
Ben?
So that, I mean, on behalf of the city, we don't put that in because like the city wants to be able to decide that. That's not, no, I mean, that's not something that I am concerned with on behalf of the city. That's Jimmy issues it for this, for that you have to look at. Again, that doesn't change my comment to the court. So no, I'm not concerned.
I get what they're saying about parking. I know that we're not to parking yet, but I can
It has to go to
understand.
planning.
I know,
It's not-
but
it's
as
not this
good-
council's purview.
As good, because they're gonna be our leasees, like so I feel like that's part of us being good to our tenants, that we have a plan for them because we know that's a problem. And I know it's not going to be a problem until it becomes to planning. I mean, it's not too hard, but just look at Overtime, who had so much problems opening because they didn't have enough parking spots. And so I get what they're saying about parking. I know that we're not to parking yet. I know we're far from parking, but we're also, and everybody says this, and everybody keeps saying this about, let's grow Cabot. And that's the problem we have. We can't grow it because people way before us didn't want it to grow, and now look at our main street of Cabot. And so we're planning this brewery, which I don't have a problem with, and we're planning all this, but we know that is a problem from the get-go. We know parking is a problem. But we're just gonna put it off until it gets to that point, and then hope that we come up with a plan.
We have plenty of spaces across, police are gonna move. All of City Hall's parking will be cleared out. We're gonna park on the other side. I mean, I can't, I mean, what Foxworthy says, you can't fix stupid? I can't fix somebody from drinking a beer and walking across the street getting hit by a car. That could happen anywhere in a parking lot of Overtimes. They could walk out and somebody driving a car could hit them. I mean, it's just right across. We can put a lit sign that we're going to put up for they get hit to walk across the street. There's going to be parking at the annex. You're going to have Brew-Ya-Ya parking that they're not going to be at night. They could walk from Brew-Ya-Ya. They haven't approached Curly Willow yet. But that's in the planning phase. What we're looking at tonight, in my mind, and I feel like I'm taking over Ed's meeting over here.
No, you go right ahead.
And I'm sorry, is that we're just looking at, would you let us enter into a lease? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But we're trying to enter in a lease. These investors want us to enter into a lease. They want to be there. 80% of the people said, let's move Cabot forward in the bond issue. We're just doing our check on the box. We're still going to have to do another check on the box if we want them to have a private club to do this beer. And we're going to have another check on the box to approve the rezone because they're going to have to be C2 and they're only C1. So there's so much more left to do that we're jumping way in front of the train here that's not even there yet. And we're going to do as Cabot, obviously, since Facebook is on top of us on everything we do, obviously this has got to be perfect or it's not going to work.
I'm not saying it has to be perfect. I'm just saying.
But it will be because it's going to have to be.
There's a lot.
Because people that spread false rumors about the city are going to be looking out the window, checking everything out.
There's a lot
So
of.
this has got to be done right.
There's a lot of questions. And let me look at you four. And if you know anything about me, you know that I have not voted for Chick-fil-A to get an incentive. I have not voted for the hotels to get an incentive. I have not voted for Olive Garden to get an incentive because I don't think they need our money. I think you need our money. I do. But I think you, and everybody knows that, that's how I vote, because this is where my heart is, and I want it to be with the people that are giving back, because Chick-fil-A makes enough money every year, they don't need our $56,000, okay? That's where I am with that, and that's how I voted, that's my record, and I think that you need our money.
We're not giving them any money. This is not an incentive. We're not giving an incentive. We're taking our money up front from them in exchange for rent. There's no incentive here.
Can I finish?
Okay.
I think that you need our money more than you need to give us $600,000 in improvements. I think that we need to come to you with an incentive of this is what we want to do for you, not what you need to do for us. I'm finished now.
We have half engineers already working on our whole downtown area that's addressing parking, bicycle flow, et cetera, of how the whole downtown's gonna look. And hopefully it'll be ready in the next month or two, that we can see it and that we can show to you guys. But, you know, we know that people are gonna wanna park, and people are too lazy to walk 1 block, they're too lazy to walk 2 blocks. They wanna park at the front door. It's not gonna happen here. If you wanna go to this establishment, you're gonna have to park half a block to block away. You might get to park across the street if we don't put up a barricade that you can't cross the street. So that's what's gonna happen here. This is a different type of business. It's a downtown business. It's different than any other type of business. It's different than an Overtime, a Purple Onion, a Firestone, El Canaveral, whatever the business may be. It's different because it's downtown, right off the sidewalk. So it's a different animal. And I understand this is.
If you go to any city, you have to walk to the place. It's just kind of normal. Go outside and have it, that's normal.
I just have another question. Whoever's the lessee of this building, when it becomes available, are they gonna be able to have the same generosity extended to them for the remodel of this building, for their business?
That's
And I
a.
think I'm just wondering, you're setting a precedence with this, so.
Of course we're setting precedents, and we've done this with, we've got leases all around the city. We did, with MIMS, we did the same thing. We did the labor in there, and they paid for the additions to that building, to the old post office. So I'm sure whatever deal comes our way, we will try to do the best we can if council approves it. Obviously, I can't do anything unless council approves it. So.
Is there a public bidding process?
We don't have a public bidding process. We've given anyone that's come to our office and asked for help, we've given them the help they needed. People in here that have built restaurants or built properties within the city that think that they should have got some help, they didn't come and ask for any help. So if you want some help, you know, if the council has me handcuffed on the amount of money I can give, that's when we bring it to council. And that's what we've done in the past with Chick-fil-A and the hotels. So if we were to sell the building, we have to get a appraisal. And we've never auctioned off a property that I know of that was a real estate property on an auction. Now, we do it all the time with our personal property on gov bids.
Bid and lease?
We've never done that. I'm just saying we've never done any of that with real property. Am I saying that's something we can do? Maybe. City attorney might look at something tomorrow and say we can't do that, but we do it with our trucks and cars and lawnmowers and stuff like that. We put it on gov bids.
Or services requests, right? Service requests.
Like what?
Engineering service request, utility upgrades, you bid those.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have to by law. It's in the statute.
Something similar.
Yeah. If we can do it, maybe it's something we look at doing. So. We were approached by Buckman to do this at that location. They want a downtown location, so we worked with them. They sought us out. So, you know, we were there to help the best we could.
Ben, Laura didn't come in, did she? I wouldn't if I was her, but I need to have a dialogue with you just a minute, okay? If the council approves the lease tonight to be executed by the mayor, they will have access to that building immediately, correct?
Not until the lease is executed.
That's what I'm saying. When the lease is executed, they will have access to that building. They will not be able to do anything in that building unless they get a building permit. Not a remodel, not anything. Really, the only thing they can do in there between the time they have access to it until all of that is run through would be to go in and look everything over and kind of get an idea of what they're going to do and get some plans together, correct?
Yes, they would have to apply and receive a remodel permit before doing actually anything.
They would have to submit those plans in order to get a remodel permit. Those plans at this scale will have to be submitted to the planning commission.
Yeah, yes, they will have to go through the planning commission or knows more about the whole process.
I know, that's why I wish she was here.
They will have to go through that process.
It's over 5,000 square feet.
Yeah, it's over 5,000, it's been.
It's 6,300, I believe.
Over 6 months and all that.
63 or 68.
So it's got to go through the planning commission. I'm just trying to get some chronological information in my brain and see if it might help. Part of that permitting process that the planning commission is going to look at is going to be parking spaces. They're either going to have parking spaces for that building based on their estimated high occupancy or agreements with somebody to be able to use it, just like Overtime had to do. So really, they're not going to go in there and start tearing a bunch of stuff down because they can't and not get parking approved and leave us with a mess. That's what I'm trying to get straight in my mind.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so they got another minimum of 3 to 4 months process with the planning commission before they can start pulling any nails.
It's a long process.
Yeah. And in that time, they're gonna have to come up with plans, heating and air, they're gonna have to do all of that. All of those plans are gonna have to be submitted and approved at least on Laura's level, if not more.
Yes, and as already kind of been alluded to tonight, Laura is very thorough.
Yeah. Yeah. Her name's been used in vain a couple of times. Okay, I just want to get that in my mind and get that straight. I mean, they're not going to be able to get down to the 12th hour of this thing and say, oh, by the way, we don't have any parking spaces, so city, you're going to have to let us go ahead and move in because that parking spaces idea is going to be covered pretty close to the front end of this whole deal.
Correct.
Okay. And parking is a concern. I think every one of us here and probably half the audience has got concerns about the parking. I don't think there's any question about that. That's absolutely a concern. I'm confident if they are diligent in what they want to do, they are able to probably overcome those. And one more thing that I've got to say, Phil, with all due respect, I have never sat here at this table and voted to issue a liquor license to any entity in this town. All we do is give them authorization because Senator Eddie Joe Williams passed the legislation that he wanted the city council to be able to approve the ability for them to take an application to ABC. All we do is say, yes, go to ABC. All of those decisions are made on ABC level completely, totally 100%.
I understand that. I know that you all are the turn off button, not the turn on button for that. I'm sorry if I led you to believe that I thought you were issuing the issue.
Well, you said, those are the words that you used. You said this council has issued license. You used those words.
I don't believe so, because I wrote what I read and read what I wrote.
Well,
But if I did, then my apologies. I
okay,
did not mean to-
that's fine, and I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Also say no, though.
Any other comments, questions, concerns?
Yeah, Ed, I want to talk to Brian Burrows. Brian, can you get up to the podium, please?
Almost home.
Brian, can you state your experience in the world of construction for all the audience attending?
I have, I don't have any notes to that effect, but I've well over 30-some-odd years of experience in basically every facet of construction, infrastructure, building, construction, commercial, residential, and so forth.
Have you been through the fire station lately, Brian?
Yes, sir, I have.
So have I. Ed, to your point earlier, there is no nails to be pulled.
No, I know.
Because it is a shed.
Brandon, I've been in there as well, and I know exactly, I mean, we barely got 4 walls.
Let me get this straight. I am pro brewery. Okay? I want these people to succeed. Do I think the fire station is the proper location? It could be. Okay? But there's a lot of hoops and hurdles that you're going to have to go through. I have lived with the city of Cabot. Okay? When John Paul was talking about you're going to have to go through a bunch of hoops, he's not lying. Their budget, according to their SBA breakdown, is $253,000. Is that correct? For the build out.
250 to 330.
For the first phase. Brian Burrows, your professional opinion. Grease trap, Ansel, Chief, that's going to need a sprinkler system, correct?
Yeah.
Can they do all that with $253,000?
I would believe so, because I heard that their contractor has prepared them early estimates to go to their banker. Their banker, just my opinion, their banker has vetted that at his level. They have, if they, it would be my understanding, is if they exceed the money in their business plan, the banker's going to say, dude, come up with it, right? So that would be they're taking all the risk.
Absolutely. My concern is, when we have budgeted $300 for bar stools, I start to question the business plan. So I don't know if we've really thought out very wisely the cost of this build out. I can answer the question. It's going to take a heck of a lot more money than $253,000. I bought a shell of a building, 7,500 square foot. Had to put a parking lot in, put offices in, and after my sister-in-law had to co-sign a loan because all the rigmarole the city of Cabot put me through, we went at $80,000 in debt that we wouldn't plan on doing because we had to do it to get an occupancy license. So if you think by the time they put a grease trap in, do you know what the average cost of a grease trap? Gary, they gonna need a grease trap? Yes, sir. They're gonna need a grease trap. They're gonna need a lot of commercial equipment. And nothing against, I'm looking out for y'all. I want this to succeed. But when I see a budget for a stove for $7,000, a commercial stove, and oven, I want to know where we got these numbers. Jamie Lefevre, I seen you walk in. How much are appliances packages for new builds on houses these days?
More than 7,000.
That's what I thought. That's all I need.
Fair enough.
Anything else? Anybody? All right, our next move is I need a motion to send to full council.
Make a motion to send to full council.
I've got a motion, I need a second, please. I've got a motion, second, to send it to full council. Tammy?
Long,
Yes?
Spangler,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Waymack,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Red,
Yes.
Hillenberg.
Yes.
All righty, it'll go to full council. That concludes the business on this. Mayor, it is roughly 10 minutes after. Could we, I hate to do this because Patrick is probably going to throw rocks at me, but can we re-adjourn or come back together for the council meeting at 9:25? Can we have about a 15-minute break?
Yes, sir, of course.
All right, then we are adjourned. We will reconvene at 9:25. Thank you.
Do you?
Kind of missed it. Thank you all. It is 9:26. We're going to call the September 24, 2024 special session of the Cabot City Council to order. First, we're going to start with a prayer. If you would stand with me, Councilman James Reed will lead us in the prayer, and then Councilman Red will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Bow with me, please. Lord, we ask your blessings on this time that we spend discussing and going through the information in front of us. And we ask you to guide us and to help us make the best decision for the people. We thank you for the many blessings that we have in Cabot and the growth that we experience. We thank you for the freedoms that we experience as Americans. We ask you to bless and protect our servicemen that are abroad and our first responders here in our city. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Hold in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Roll call, please, Tammy.
Long.
Here.
Spangler.
Here.
Red.
Here.
Hillenberg.
Here.
Cope. Here. Reed.
Here.
Weber.
Here.
Waymack.
Here.
All are present. Next items, read ordinances and resolutions by title only.
I make a motion that we read ordinances by title only, please.
Second.
I got a second. Motion by Brandon and a second by Stephen to read ordinances and resolutions by title only. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, roll call vote, please, Tammy.
Long.
Yes.
Spangler.
Yes.
Red.
Yes.
Hillenberg.
Yes.
Cope.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Waymack.
Yes.
Passes 8-0. City council old business. Council, I don't have any. Anyone else have something we want to add? This is a special agenda, so I don't even know if we could do that, Ben, but I thought I'd ask. New business, we have one item tonight. Tammy, it's resolution number 34 of 2024.
Number 34 of 2024, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk treasurer to enter into an agreement with Buckman Brewery and for other purposes.
Mayor, I move that we table resolution number 34 of 2024.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to table resolution number 34 of 2024.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question of Mr. Spangler? Would you like to?
Yeah.
Is to a definite time, or to, just for purposes of keeping the agenda, to when is your motion to table?
I want to table it to write in the amendments that we discussed about reassessing the lease based on the value of the improvements to the loan, and I want to discuss writing in the right to the first refusal after the end of the 20-year lease. And then bring it back.
Corey, may I add one more thing to that?
Yes.
That is also being put in there, the renter's insurance that we talked about,
Yep.
if we're going to do that.
Thanks, Ed. I forgot about that one.
Thank you, Corey.
Is that all you need, Ben?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We got a motion and a second to table resolution number 34 of 2024. Any discussion?
What was the time frame?
I took that to mean when, after those were added to the lease.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Okay.
So would that be our next regularly scheduled council meeting?
Presumably, yes.
When could they present the planning? Is that the end of next month?
Yeah.
So they'd have to
Yeah.
get to Laura by, James, help me here, he used to be planning commissioner. Is it by the end of this month? They have to get their,
Yes, because it's got to be advertised. No, this doesn't.
No, I think
That's rezoning.
they've got to get their agenda and
It's got to
their
hit agenda
packet.
and then get back to legal and get approved, written.
If I remember her calendar, it will be Monday or Tuesday of next week. They'll have to have a site plan in order to be on the late October planning commission. So that's the earliest possible. The question would be, do they have a site plan in the works or not?
Well,
Then what I'm hearing you say, Brian, is that they're not ready for the October anyway, more than likely.
More than likely.
well, do y'all have a site plan that is ready?
We got a plan for the building. This is our current plan.
Well, there's one that's being worked on, that's supposed to be finished this week with the extra things that we put into it. And yes, there should be.
Yeah, so they're turning a date. I don't have that.
I can't find a piece of calendar.
Our architect's supposed to have it done by the end of this week.
Mayor,
Yes.
did you not say that there is a rezoning also involved?
Well, that would be at planning.
Right.
They got to approve the site plan, and then they'll have to submit for a rezone as well.
Simultaneously?
They can do it simultaneously, yes. Yep, that's allowed.
But you wouldn't, theoretically, you wouldn't sign the lease until that process was finished. Is that what I understood?
No, what was understood is the lease could be signed, but they can't do anything until they get a building permit, so they have to go through the planning stages.
Right.
So the question is,
All the money without signing.
right, the question is, do they want to submit for October? And if you do, we would need to meet Monday or Tuesday to know if they want to submit to planning, is where I'm trying to get to.
I see.
And then they're spending financial resources to get you a site plan before they have an approved lease. That's also the caveat there.
It's called business.
Don't we all?
Yep.
Well, our next meeting is October the 4th.
October, is it the 4th or the 7th?
It's the 7th.
It's the 7th.
7th, I think.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're right. I was in November. My goodness. I'm ready to get rid of this year, sounds like.
So if you were to work backwards, when were you planning to open?
Our goal is 6 months from when the loan funds.
Mhm.
That's our goal. So, we're waiting on lease to fund, so it's all up in the air.
Yeah, we need the lease agreement to find
Yeah, the SBA wants a lease agreement, right? Okay. Okay. So my only friendly amendment would be to Corey to say no earlier than next Monday, but no later than the next scheduled meeting.
I mean, whatever it takes for your team to get it together for us.
Yeah, they can, it's up to Ben. I don't know, he'd probably get it in a day or two, but I don't know what else he's
Yeah,
got.
man, I know we're under the gun. I don't want to throw a wrench into it, but we have to get this right.
Our escrow closes on September 30th, so we will have to get an extension if we do not receive the lease agreement by September 30th. We will have to apply for an extension.
Yeah, but I think, Ben, am I wrong, that if we approve the lease tonight, if it's not tabled, we can add those things that were talked about tonight?
The council could pass a resolution requiring those things to be added to the lease. Adopting the resolution with the contingent that they be added.
Okay. If that's all we're waiting for, we could.
What would that, I mean, I'll make that motion. What would it look like?
So, well, if you want to do that, first we need to withdraw the motion second we just had. And then you would need to move to amend the resolution to add the 3 things we just listed.
Okay.
And then you have that, so you have to have a removal of the motion, removal of the second, a motion and second to amend, to add those 3 things, a vote on the amendment, and then a separate vote on passage. A little more complicated, but that would be the process if that's what you want.
Okay. Is it enough for me to say, add those three things? Like, you know, that's what I'm worried about is.
So the first step is to say, yes, remove motion, remove second, then motion to adopt the resolution with 3 amendments to the lease.
Okay.
However many amendments.
So you would say, Corey would like to remove your motion,
Yeah, I'll revoke my motion.
and then what else do I do?
And then, Brad, take your second. Ask Mr. Hillenberg.
Okay, Mr. Hillenberg, would you like to remove your second?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then if Corey wants to make a
Corey,
motion,
would you like to make a motion?
I move to adopt, right, to adopt Resolution 34 with those 3 amendments that we previously discussed. Is that enough?
Yes.
Okay.
I think maybe for Ms. Tammy, would you like us to just to state those amendments one more time?
Please.
One was stronger language about reassessing the terms of the loan based on the yearly value added to the property. One was right of first refusal after the end of the 20-year lease. And the other was the requirement that they acquire renter's insurance.
Thank you.
So that's my motion. Can I get a second?
Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, roll call vote, please. Tammy?
Long,
Yes.
Spangler,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Waymack,
Yes.
Cope,
No.
Red,
No.
Hillenberg. No.
Passes 5-3. Next resolution, I guess we adopt resolution number 34 as amended.
Yes, if there is a motion to adopt, it would be as amended.
Okay, so it would be, now we need a motion to approve resolution number 34 of 2024 as amended.
I move to adopt Resolution 34 of 2024 as amended.
I'll second.
I got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, roll call vote, please. Tammy?
Long,
Yes.
Spangler,
Yes.
Red,
No.
Reed,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Waymack,
No.
Cope,
No.
Hillenberg. No.
Mayor votes yes. Passes 5-4. I don't see any more new business. Community input? Any other community input?
Make a motion.
Seeing none, do you have a motion to adjourn?
And I'll second.
I got a motion to second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Adjourned at 9:38.